Duxford Air Festival also started 75 years ago this year. The aircraft had been developed by North American Aviation with incredible eyes that was never made. Son of England, Charles Bobbington, and son Matthew restored the aircraft to fly a few years ago. Something like those 14 years it landed across from the left. There's a single seat plated with a single 0.303-inch Vickers machine gun. Development at the time that its frontline service for Sopwith triplane was relatively brief, but it was extremely successful in a great time returning the battle with its contemporaries. It started to be replaced by an armor face Sopwith Camel from summer 1917, with the famous black light representing the first prototype triplane, as was tested immediately into service during a loan to No. 1 Naval Squadron in France from 1916. But we see the B-2 bear a different aircraft on its tail in the form of one of the two Vickers CL-1s, the German's most effective ground attack aircraft of the late World War I period. The Allied troops on the front line bearing the brunt of the aerial assault from the CL-1s. Now they've got the SE-5A on their tails. They see what's happening with the SE-5 pilots. They dive down to attack the Junkers. And all the while you can hear the sound of the machine guns from where you're standing, about 150 yards away. Its SE designation, those letters stood for skills experimental. The SE-5 came along in November 1916, the SE-5A improved model in 1917. 21 British Empire squadrons into very good years used SE-5s and 5As during the First World War. Many great aces are associated with them, the likes of Albert Hall, Mick Fannock, James McCuddy and Billy Bishop. More than 5,000 SE-5s were built. Most of them SE-5As. The best thing about the SE-5A was that it was a good performer at all altitudes. As fast as the its German rivals, at a very good rate of climb, strong airplane, and it was agile. These scale replicas were built from drawings supplied by US firm Replica Plans. They're 7/8 scale. One of them, the SE5 just passing ground centre at the moment, is in American marking, specifically those of the 25th Aero Squadron, part of the US Expeditionary Force, which flew SE5As with the RAF in the late World War I period. And as the pyrotechnics continue to go off, you can imagine here a little of what the actual dogfights of the First World War were like, occurring at very different levels. Dozens of aircraft engaged in close-in tail chases. Today, with aircraft like the Typhoon we saw earlier, and the Rafale that we'll see later, we talk about beyond visual range combat, where pilots can't even see their aerial opponents. Nothing like that in the First World War. Multiple aircraft circling, climbing, diving, position, trying to get off their opponent's tail, mainly using the weather to make turns, get into a good shooting position. It was pretty much as close to hand-to-hand combat as air warfare has ever got. Now it's the turn of the triplanes. We saw one of the two Fokkers on the tail of the Sopwith, passing us by there as from the right cut in the B2C with one of the CL1s now on its tail. From the left-hand Sopwith triplane, Fokker triplane, SE5A and CL1 engaged in a furious chase. Triplane, it's made quite a 17. That was in significant part as a result of the excellent performance of the Sopwith triplane when it first appeared. The original form, VR1 and 2 spat-out machine guns. 320 of them were built, and it was supremely agile in terms of where it was slower than its allied adversaries. Like the SE5A, many famous names were associated with the VR1. The most famous, of course, but the vehicles that they had. They're of course the VR1 really explosives. Here's the Sopwith. It keeps taking hits from the Fokker, but keeps recovering. The same is true of the 4-old B2C, which has the other Fokker on its tail there. All the while, the flat colours on the far side of the trenches. Attempting to get a shot in against the fighters.
Air America. Stack.
Passing by from left to right, the last one will be on this The CL1 was a two-seat monoplane around the front aircraft. Its first flight was in December 1917. It was based on the previous winter's machine, the J8, which had a lot of fuselage to accommodate the rear gunner, depicted here by a dummy. First, the gunner has been asked whether the dummy is actually the one sitting in the front rather than the back, but we won't go into that. Only 47 J or CL1s, I should say, were built and delivered by the time of the armistice of November 1918. It was an aircraft that made thus a massive contribution to the First World War. But good to see it represented here. Of those, 3 of them were float planes, which is quite an adaptable little machine, and the Crybaby portrayed it well. Doing his best though. Up ahead of us the BE-2C lumbering through the sky. It was a very stable platform because we were slow speed. That made it a very good reconnaissance machine. It's less useful for other roles. From RAF Milton Hall, not far from here, to Melbourne, Australia. It's the de Havilland DH-88 Comet, named Grosvenor House. In which Alex Henshaw broke the London to Cape and return record in 1939.
Missed it.
The second result is on a perfect replica. Specifically, a replica of an example of the new gull that won the prestigious King's Cup Air Race 80 years ago this year in 1937. Very good opportunity to see its shape there.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to refer to that. It's a very distinctive shape. I'm not quite sure whether it's one you would describe as pretty or elegant, but iconic, definitely. Graceful, maybe.
Definitely.
I guess it's all the character. It all depends on your taste, doesn't it? But I really like it sort of thing. And it is, of course, a real warbird in every sense. Asset so far as the Battle of the Atlantic was concerned during the First World War. The Atlantic Gap was causing all kinds of problems.
Right. So, Jenny, mate. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, and you?
Take care.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I will be.